The child's scream cuts through Central Park at 6 a.m. A kidnapping in broad daylight. 6 professional men with a 7-year-old girl. The dog walker watching from 50 yards away isn't calling police. He's calculating attack patterns. Welcome to the last salute. That harmless dog walker earning minimum wage is actually Marcus Alpha Rodriguez, former K-9 unit specialist who trained military attack dogs for 8 years. If you want to see how he turns a morning dog walk into a tactical rescue operation, smash that subscribe button right now. Because those kidnappers just triggered someone who commanded the most elite 4-legged warriors in military history. And Marcus has 7 dogs with him today, each one trained for a different kind of warfare. What city are you watching from? This pack hunt is about to go primal. Central Park, Upper East Side. Every morning at 5:45 a.m., Marcus Rodriguez arrived at the same corner with the same 7 dogs, beginning a routine that Manhattan's wealthiest families had come to depend on. Zeus, German Shepherd, belongs to the Blackstone hedge fund family. Athena, Belgian Malinois, property of a Supreme Court justice. Thor, Rottweiler, owned by a tech billionaire's daughter. Artemis, Doberman, companion to a pharmaceutical heiress. Apollo, Dutch Shepherd, beloved by a media mogul's son. Diana, German Shepherd mix, rescue dog belonging to a senator's wife. Hercules, Mastiff, gentle giant owned by an oil executive's grandmother. To the park's regular joggers and early commuters, Marcus looked like exactly what he was supposed to be. Another immigrant making honest money walking rich people's dogs. At 39 years old, he embodied the invisible labor that kept Manhattan's elite lifestyle functioning smoothly. But Marcus Rodriguez had a story that would have terrified the very families who trusted him with their most precious possessions. Staff Sergeant Marcus Alpha Rodriguez, U.S. Army K-9 Corps, 8 years training military working dogs for special operations. His specialty had been multi-dog tactical units, coordinated pack attacks that could clear buildings, track high-value targets, and execute rescue operations in hostile territory. Marcus's military career had begun in Iraq, where he'd learned that war dogs weren't just animals, they were weapons with hearts. His first assignment was training bomb detection dogs for urban warfare, German Shepherds who could smell explosives through concrete walls, Belgian Malinois who could track insurgents across desert terrain for miles. But Marcus's real gift had been understanding pack dynamics. While other trainers worked with individual dogs, Marcus developed techniques for coordinating multiple canines in complex operations. His units could execute simultaneous attacks from different angles, create diversions while extraction teams moved in, and provide security for high-value targets in ways that human soldiers couldn't match. His reputation had grown through 3 deployments. The pack leader who could make dogs think like soldiers and soldiers trust like pack members. Marcus's last mission had been in Afghanistan, leading a 6-dog unit during a Taliban compound raid. The operation was perfect, until an IED took out his entire pack and left Marcus as the sole survivor with injuries that ended his military career. The medical discharge came with honors, commendations, and a Purple Heart, but Marcus would have traded all of it to have his pack back. Working with civilian dogs helped heal the parts of his soul that military counselors couldn't reach. These 7 dogs weren't just pets he walked for money. They were his new pack. And Marcus had spent 2 years training them in ways their wealthy owners would never suspect. If you're already sensing this pack has hidden depths, hit that subscribe button now. Because what happens when predators target the innocent is about to show you why some dog walkers are actually alpha wolves in disguise. Marcus had developed his route over 2 years of careful observation, not just for the dog's exercise needs, but for tactical surveillance of potential threats to his clients' children. Central Park attracted wealth, and wealth attracted predators. Human trafficking operations, kidnapping rings, and worse. Most dog walkers saw joggers and tourists. Marcus saw patterns, anomalies, and potential threats. His military training had taught him to think like the enemy. Where would he position surveillance? How would he identify high-value targets? What escape routes would he use? The answer was terrifying. Central Park was a predator's paradise. Multiple entry and exit points, dense foliage for concealment, predictable schedules from wealthy families, minimal security presence. Marcus had been tracking suspicious activity for weeks, the same black van appearing at different locations around the park, always with clear sightlines to the playground areas where the most vulnerable children played. Professional surveillance required professional countermeasures. Marcus had begun varying his routes, testing the van's response patterns. When he walked north, they repositioned north. When he circled back unexpectedly, they scrambled to maintain visual contact. These weren't random criminals. They were organized, well-funded, and specifically targeting the children of Manhattan's elite. Marcus's military intelligence training kicked in. He began documenting license plates, photographing occupants, tracking their schedules, building a tactical picture of the threat. What he discovered was worse than random kidnapping attempts. This was systematic reconnaissance for a larger operation. The van was just one element of a network that had been studying Central Park's patterns for months. Marcus realized he was watching the preliminary stages of something catastrophic, not just one kidnapping, but a coordinated attack on multiple high-value targets, the kind of operation that would require military-style coordination to stop. Fortunately, Marcus Alpha Rodriguez still remembered how to coordinate military-style responses. This morning's anomaly was more than subtle, it was aggressive. The black van wasn't just observing anymore, it was positioned for action. Marcus counted 3 additional vehicles in supporting positions around the park, classic box formation for a snatch-and-grab operation, professional kidnappers with serious backing. At 6:15 a.m., the Hoffman family's 7-year-old daughter, Emma, always played on the swings while her nanny checked emails. Consistent schedule, minimal security, maximum vulnerability. Today, Emma was running toward the playground when the van's doors opened. 6 men emerged with practiced efficiency. Not random predators. Professional kidnappers with military-grade coordination. They moved to surround Emma with textbook precision, cutting off escape routes and minimizing witness exposure. Marcus was 200 yards away with 7 dogs who trusted him completely. In Afghanistan, he'd coordinated pack attacks across greater distances with radio communications and air support. In Central Park, he had something better. Dogs who read his body language like a tactical manual and a terrain he'd been studying for 2 years. Zeus, Athena, intercept formation, Marcus whispered. The 2 German shepherds immediately understood, not an attack command, a positioning directive. They began moving to cut off the kidnappers' retreat routes while appearing to chase squirrels through the morning joggers. Thor, Apollo, barrier positions. The Rottweiler and Dutch Shepherd moved to create physical obstacles between Emma and the approaching men. To observers, it looked like dogs playing. To Marcus, it was tactical deployment. Artemis, Diana, distraction and witness management. The Doberman and mixed breed began creating controlled chaos, barking at other dogs, getting people's attention, making the quiet kidnapping attempt suddenly very public and very complicated. Hercules, emergency signal. The massive mastiff began howling in a pattern that Marcus had trained him to use only in genuine emergencies. The sound carried across the park like an air raid siren, alerting everyone within a quarter mile that something was seriously wrong. The kidnappers realized their carefully planned operation was falling apart. Professional criminals, they adapted quickly. But they were adapting to resistance they didn't understand. Are you seeing how a dog pack becomes a tactical unit? Subscribe and keep watching. This rescue operation is about to show you why military training never really ends. The kidnappers' team leader made a critical decision: abort the primary target and retreat to their backup plan. They had intelligence on multiple children, multiple opportunities. But Marcus wasn't just protecting Emma. He was protecting every vulnerable child in Central Park, and that meant stopping these men permanently. All units, active engagement, Marcus commanded quietly. What happened next redefined the relationship between man and dog. Zeus and Athena moved first, using speed and surprise to separate the kidnappers from their vehicles, not attacking humans, but systematically destroying their escape options: tires, radio antennas, anything that would leave them stranded and vulnerable to law enforcement. Thor positioned himself directly in the kidnappers' path, 140 pounds of intimidation that forced them to alter their route toward Marcus's preferred containment area, a section of the park with limited exits and maximum witness exposure. Apollo and Diana maintained perimeter control, their coordinated movements herding bystanders to safety while keeping the kidnappers contained within an increasingly small area. Artemis used her speed and agility to maintain surveillance, tracking the kidnappers' movements and reporting back to Marcus through subtle body language signals he'd developed during their training. Hercules, the gentle giant, became a psychological weapon. His presence alone, 180 pounds of protective instinct, convinced several kidnappers that physical confrontation was not a viable option. But Marcus's real masterpiece was the coordination. 7 dogs moving like a military unit, each understanding their role in a complex operation that looked like chaos to everyone except the man orchestrating it. The kidnappers found themselves trapped in an ever-shrinking area, surrounded by increasingly aggressive dogs, with growing numbers of witnesses documenting their every move. Their radios crackled with abort commands from their handlers. This operation had become too public, too complicated, too risky. But Marcus wasn't letting them abort. He was forcing them to make a choice: surrender to police custody, or try to fight their way out through a pack of dogs trained by someone who understood exactly how to make that fight unwinnable. The team leader reached for his concealed weapon. Marcus gave the signal he'd hoped never to use again. Alpha formation: protect and detain. What followed wasn't an attack. It was a masterclass in controlled violence applied with surgical precision. Zeus and Athena moved in perfect synchronization, their 8 years of Marcus's training compressed into 30 seconds of flawless execution. They disabled the armed kidnappers without causing permanent injury, using techniques Marcus had developed for neutralizing threats while preserving the possibility of interrogation. Thor and Apollo created a containment field that prevented escape while protecting civilians. Their positioning forced the remaining kidnappers into a central area where they could be monitored and controlled. Artemis and Diana maintained communications, their movement patterns telling Marcus exactly where each threat was located and what their next moves might be. Hercules became the anchor, a massive, immovable presence that psychologically dominated the entire space and convinced the kidnappers that resistance was futile. Marcus moved through the operation like a conductor leading an orchestra. Every hand signal, every vocal command, every subtle shift in his body language was interpreted by his pack with military precision. The kidnapping operation collapsed completely. 6 professionals with extensive criminal backgrounds were systematically outmaneuvered by a dog walker and his pack using tactics they'd never encountered. When NYPD units arrived, they found 6 suspects restrained by aggressive but controlled dogs, and 1 civilian dog walker who'd somehow managed to prevent a kidnapping while protecting all bystanders from harm. Marcus provided his dog walking permits and explained that his pack had detected unusual threatening behavior and had responded protectively, all perfectly legal under New York's Good Samaritan laws. The kidnappers went to prison. Their investigation revealed connections to human trafficking networks across 3 states and evidence of planned attacks on dozens of high-value targets. Emma Hoffman continued playing safely in Central Park, never knowing how close she'd come to disappearing forever. If this pack operation is blowing your mind, subscribe to The Last Salute right now. We honor these hidden protectors every week. The conclusion will show you why some guardians never truly retire. Marcus Rodriguez never revealed his military background to his clients. To Manhattan's elite, he remained the reliable dog walker who somehow made their pets more obedient and their neighborhoods safer. But word spread through wealthy social circles in ways that money couldn't buy the dog walker on the Upper East Side, who'd somehow helped police catch those terrible people. Families started requesting Marcus. Specifically, his waiting list grew to 8 months. What they didn't know was that Marcus had quietly expanded his services beyond dog walking. Each morning's route became a security patrol, Each interaction with their pets became an assessment of their family's vulnerability. Marcus began training his clients' dogs for more than basic obedience. Without their owners realizing it, every sit, stay, and heel command was building a foundation for protective behaviors that could activate in emergencies. The wealthy families thought they were paying for premium pet care. They were actually investing in a private security network run by someone who understood protection better than any civilian contractor. And Marcus's pack Zeus, Athena, Thor, Artemis, Apollo, Diana, and Hercules carried themselves differently now. They moved with confidence that came from knowing their purpose. They'd saved lives, stopped criminals, and protected the innocent. They weren't just pets anymore. They were Marcus's new unit, and they understood their mission: keep the children safe. 6 months later, Central Park had become the safest place in Manhattan for children to play. Crime statistics showed a dramatic decrease in all forms of predatory behavior in the area. Law enforcement credited increased patrols and community awareness programs. They never mentioned the dog walker whose pack had created an invisible security network that criminals learned to avoid. Marcus continued earning $35 an hour walking dogs. But the families who employed him slept better, knowing their children were protected by someone who'd spent 8 years perfecting the art of keeping people safe. And every morning at 5:45 a.m., Marcus Rodriguez arrived at his corner in Central Park with 7 dogs who understood that their morning exercise was actually the most important patrol duty in New York City. Because some warriors never retire, they just find new ways to serve. And in Manhattan, parents learned that the most elite protection services sometimes come disguised as dog-walking services, led by someone who knows that the best security is the kind nobody notices until it saves their life. Before you go, if this pack operation amazed you, subscribe to The Last Salute and hit that notification bell. Next week, the story of an Uber driver who turned late-night rides into a counterintelligence operation that exposed an international spy ring. Drop a comment about the most loyal animal protection story you know. Until next time, this is The Last Salute, honoring the warriors who serve on 2 legs and 4